and welcome. This is the Mind Journal expert m- m- expert talk series. I'm Dr. K. I'm excited to do this collaboration with the Mind Journal, and today we're talking about daily routines for optimal mental health. As we all know, this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and this month it's all about not just raising, in my opinion, raising awareness about mental health, but also some of the practical approaches that we can take to just improve the quality of our day-to-day life. And I think one of the areas that I wanted to touch on, and we will have time for your questions as well. So please do put them in the chat. If you could put a question mark or a couple question marks before your question, it just makes it easier for me to see it later on. So one of the biggest misconceptions I think about mental health or taking care of your mental health is that you have to have something wrong with you. I have to have anxiety, or I have to have depression, or I have to have panic, or bipolar. It doesn't have to be that. You don't have to be. You don't have to feel like you're broken in order to get help. The reality is that taking care of your mental and emotional well-being is the key that unlocks allowing you to become the best version of yourself. And personally, I don't even believe that anyone is broken. I don't believe anyone is broken. I used to think I was broken. Um, this is something that I had to come to over the years myself. Um, Years ago, I was actually in corporate America, working just like all of us do, right? To try to improve, get a better quality of life, make some more money, pay off my student loans at the time. And I was really successful in my career. I was able to move up, I was able to do those things. But I could never feel happy about myself, no matter what level of success, no matter what level of accomplishments, income, none of that seemed to matter because there was this hole inside. And I refused to get help because I thought, well, I'm not broken. I was too proud. But the truth is that when you hit rock bottom, when you hit that place where you're willing to try anything, that's a beautiful place to be. And that's where I was about 11 years ago, where I had just gotten dumped. My career was feeling like it was topping out. I wasn't feeling fulfilled in where I was in any area of my life. I hated the man in the mirror, and I refused to get help. But thankfully, the universe had my back. And so I saw my sister after a 3-month window of time. She had lost 30 pounds. Her cystic acne had cleared up. She looked incredible. And I was really struggling with my weight severely at that time as well. And so, hitting rock bottom, I was like, okay, whatever you did, sister, I'm going to do it too. And so I did. And in the process of losing 100 pounds, I also noticed that as my gut health changed, my emotional health shifted. And it got me wondering, wait, maybe there's more to this. Maybe we don't have a headache because of the lack of Advil in our system, right? Maybe we're just not giving our bodies and minds the tools that we need, the resources, the nutrients, the fulfillment, all these things in order for us to thrive and be emotionally healthy. And so I left my career and I went to naturopathic medical school to become a naturopathic physician. And in the years since, I have focused on emotional health because I think this is an area that once we can believe that we can get better, once we can believe that we deserve better, once we believe that we are enough, everything changes. And so today, I'm really excited to talk about daily routines for optimal mental health. But before we do, I would like to know, where is everyone tuning in from? So I'm checking the chat here. All right. All right. Let's see. Jenica. All right. Cool. I've been dealing with this since age 6, but in our culture, it is a stigma, and they don't believe it. Yeah, Bushra, I completely understand. Being of Indian descent myself, it was very much like there's no such thing as bad mental health. Like, go take a walk, right? That was pretty much it. And not that that was said directly, right? But it was more. There was this sense of tough it out, right? Like, life is hard, make it happen. Work hard, you'll succeed, you'll be okay. And so that's where I hit though. I was working hard, I was succeeding, and I still didn't feel okay. And that's why I want to share some things that that can be really powerful for you today. Okay, let's see. Love seeing everybody here. I'm doing well. Thank you. Bibik, I believe. Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And who's ready to jump in for some daily routines for optimal mental health? Who's up for it? Let me know in the chat if you're excited. Emojis. Um, let me know that you're up for it. Okay, I see a yes. All right, let's go. All right, so daily routines for optimal mental health. Now, this is a plant of mine that is not doing so well. Okay. This plant is not doing so well, as you can see. Now, I need your help in the chat. Let me know, what can I do to fix this? Right? What are some ideas to revive this dying plant? So let me know in the chat. I'm eager to get your help on this one. And I promise you it has something to do with emotional health. I'm getting there. All right. What ideas do we have to revive my dying plant? Please help. I'm struggling with this one. The answers don't have to be complicated. They can be pretty straightforward here. All right. Do we have any suggestions? But, to revive a dying plant, you might say, let's, I don't know, maybe it's getting not enough sun. Water, right? Kurt says water. Yes. Maybe I haven't watered this plant enough. That's entirely possible. What else? If it's not water, maybe it's, we need to replace the soil. The soil doesn't have any more nutrients. Maybe it's not getting enough sun. Maybe it's getting too much sun. Ooh, yes, cut the dead parts and leave the roots. Very good point, right? That's a great one, right? Just eliminate the waste, so to speak, right? So, what are all these factors? The light, the water, the the elimination of dead cells, basically, um, the soil, the nutrients in the soil. What are all of these? These are the fundamental determinants that this plant needs to thrive. Okay. And now, if you apply the same concept to our well being, our emotional well being, well, then you have this concept that this is one of the cornerstone concepts that I teach, and it's on emotional health. So, emotional health is fundamentally a person's ability to identify, process, and act upon feelings in specific circumstances and over the course of time. So, emotional health: identify your feelings, process your feelings, and act appropriately on your feelings. So if you think about somebody that's not emotionally healthy, one of the things that we can do is maybe we get triggered very easily by something somebody said inadvertently. They weren't trying to hurt us, but we feel triggered, and then we get angry and lash out. And so that is an inability to identify our feelings. The processing is not so healthy, and the action certainly hurts others. And so emotional health is identify, process, and act. Okay. So another way you can think about it is emotional health is your emotional intelligence plus your emotional resilience. So emotional intelligence, your self-awareness, also awareness of others, the interpersonal relationships, and your emotional resilience, your ability to bounce back from things. And so remember that plant, right? This plant that's not doing so well. So if we look at what about the human being? What do we need in order to be emotionally healthy? So here are the 5 pillars of emotional health. Number one, your psychology. These are your belief systems. This is the lens through which you see the world. This is your history of trauma, your history of experiences in life that allowed you to adapt, to think the way that you do, see yourself the way that you do, see the world around you the way that you do. That is your psychology. Number two, your relationships. We are the average of the 5 people and ideas that we spend the most time with. And so it's critical for us to be around people that are not just positive, right? Because being toxically positive doesn't necessarily help us process legitimately difficult situations. But it's about people that are growth seeking, the people that always want to improve and get better, not because they don't feel like they're good enough, but because they're excited to just see what they're capable of. That childlike wonder that we all used to have, what could we become? What do you want to be when you grow up? And yet somehow when we grow older, this stuff goes away. So being around people like that, it's your romantic relationships, right? Being able to communicate with your partner and understand your partner at a very deep level, which includes at first understanding your own mind. It involves your relationships with your family, your friends, your coworkers, all of these things. Okay, your relationships. Number 3, your nutrition. This is the avenue that I came to emotional health, because normally we think of addressing our mental illness and things along those lines with either counseling or hypnotherapy or other psychotherapies, EMDR, things like that, or psychiatry with drugs. And so both are useful in specific situations in for different people at different times. I needed therapy at one point myself as well. EMDR was what helped me the most. It's all about the right person for the right approach at the right time. At the same time, I changed my food and all of a sudden my mind started to shift. Why? Because 90% of the neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, etc., that regulate how we think, act, and feel come from our gut, come from the bacteria that live in our gut. And so I'm going to dive into this a little bit more in coming up. Number 4, sleep. Sleep is the first thing to go when we're busy, right? But it's so powerful for long-term brain health, for processing the day's events, for committing things to long-term memory, for creating emotional resilience. Sleep is vital. It doesn't matter how busy you are. It doesn't matter how much, of a hustle culture type of person you are. Trust me, I was, 4 hours of sleep per night for years, and I paid the price for it health-wise in the years that followed. The bill comes due eventually. So sleep is incredibly important. And number 5, body movement. Motion dictates emotion. And it's not just about exercise. It's about being in constant low-grade motion. It's about keeping the body moving and flowing, and also certain postures, moving your shoulders back, your chest out, breathing in deeply. That can instantly shift your emotional state, and being able to use that to our advantage can be really, really powerful. Okay, so before I go further, I just want to read some comments here. Self-acceptance, personal growth, positive relations. I love what I'm seeing here in the chat. All right, so are we ready for the first tip for daily habits? You ready? Who's ready? Let's go. All right, number 1, morning routine. Okay, why am I talking about morning routine? Because here, how many of us use this as our alarm clock? If you use your phone as alarm clock, let me know in the chat. No judgment, right? Because I used to do this too. Because of course, it's so easy. It's right there, and now they have all these features like it'll detect when you're going to go to bed and then set the alarm at the right time for you, stuff like that. Super cool, except they are not all that helpful in terms of actually getting a great good night's sleep. So one of the challenges is that, think about if let's say you have a partner, you're in bed, instead of having a conversation right, and then what ends up happening is that the blue light from the phone, even if you have the blue light blocking, it doesn't fully do the job. The blue light from the phone disrupts your melatonin production. Your melatonin is your stay asleep hormone. And now all of a sudden, the quality of sleep that you get throughout the night is not going to be as strong. This applies to a TV in the bedroom, white lights in the evening around the house or in the bedroom, especially, right? Those things are things that you don't want to have exposure to. But also think about the mental stimulation that we get when we're on our phone. You're on Instagram, TikTok, emails, text, whatever. You're getting mentally stimulated at a time when you're trying to calm down. You're trying to relax. But then what happens in the middle of the night? You got to go to the bathroom, right? You get up to go to the bathroom. You go to the bathroom. You come back. Phone's on your nightstand. What are you doing? Right? Admit it. I used to do it. You tap your screen. Maybe somebody texted me at 2 a.m. I hope not, but like more often than not, there's no work email that you need to respond to at 2 a.m. Okay. And so, and if there is, then that's a different story. But at least for most of us, that's not the case. And so we subject ourselves to more mental stimulation and light. And now all of a sudden it becomes even harder to fall back asleep. But here's the real damaging part. You wake up in the morning, okay? And I want you to imagine this. You have a curve of cortisol. Cortisol is your is a stress hormone, but it's an alertness hormone, and it has a normal day-night pattern. And typically, you're going to find your cortisol peaks to the highest in the day 30 minutes after you wake up, and then dips slowly throughout the rest of the day. And that makes sense because you don't want to be alert at the end of the day when you're trying to sleep. So your cortisol peaks to the highest 30 minutes into the day. And as this happens, that's when you're getting into your body, into your mind. And what happens when you wake up? The alarm rings. Oh, okay. Okay. Let me turn that off. And all of a sudden, you're scrolling, you're checking social media. It might be half an hour before your feet even hit the floor. You've given up control of your entire day. So put your phone in another room at night. If you listen to nothing else that I share today, just do this one part. Put your phone in another room at night. Okay. Let it charge elsewhere. And when you wake up in the morning, and now, okay, first of all, before we get any further, I know some of you are like, Dr. K, how am I supposed to get up in the morning without my phone? Right. And I get it. But here's the thing. Not long ago, if you are, been around on this earth for a little while, you remember there used to be these things called alarm clocks, right? Who's seen one of these? Who has seen one of these alarm clocks, right? Now, these can be very useful and they're not that expensive. You can get one for pretty cheap on Amazon. And if you really want to get fancy, because who like the sound of these things, you can get one of these sunrise alarm clocks, which I absolutely love. And generally, what they do is they slowly rise for about half an hour and then the color goes from warm to cool, just like the sunrise. And then after half an hour, that's when the sound comes on if you haven't woken up already. And it's a very gentle way of waking up, and it doesn't make you be on your technology at the time. So get yourself an alarm clock. So when you wake up in the morning, you don't have your phone, you've woken up to this alarm clock, or maybe your body just woke up on its own, and brush your teeth, you do your normal getting ready routine there, and then create a morning routine that inspires you. Maybe it's meditation, maybe it's prayer, maybe it's a little bit of reading, maybe it's a little bit of journaling, maybe it's visualizing your day, maybe it's sitting outside and just hearing the birds, feeling the sun on your face. You could actually do several of these things at the same time. You could sit outside, get the sun on your face, which, by the way, getting that sunlight exposure first thing in the morning, very powerful for getting your cortisol balance. Remember, I talked about that, your cortisol balance in line. So actually, a great night's sleep actually starts that morning if you can get that sunlight exposure first thing. So get that sun on your face. And you could sit outside and do your journaling. You could sit outside and do your meditation. You could take your dog for a walk and do that. And if you are going to walk and you want to listen to a podcast or something empowering, right, an audiobook, I'd recommend that too. But just make sure that you put your phone on a do not disturb mode where you're not going to see your notifications. And in fact, if you have something like an iPhone, and maybe Androids do this now as well, but you can actually change all the apps that you see depending on the focus mode setting that you have. And so you won't even see, you can set it so you won't even see your Instagram or anything else. And it's super useful that way. But stay away from your tech for the first half hour. And now your morning routine could be half hour, but if you don't have time for that, that's okay. Make it 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. It doesn't matter. Longer the better. But, take that time for yourself every day. It allows you to ground yourself. It allows you to connect with yourself. And then after all that, then go check your phone. And I promise you, you keep doing this for a few days. It won't even take that long. You're starting to feel a little bit better, a little bit more in control, a little bit less reactionary. You know how we just feel like we're reacting to the world around us and we don't have a moment to just stay still and recover and breathe. And so as a result, we might experience things like anxiety and things along those lines. And it's not saying that this is the cure for all that, but it's saying that this is a fundamental thing that we human beings need, this human organism, in order to thrive. So why don't we give ourselves what we need in order to thrive, much like that plant that needs water and soil and all those things. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? All right, cool. Let's go on to the next one, which is eat more fiber. Okay. Eat more fiber. What do I mean by this? All right. So I mentioned earlier that 90% of our neurotransmitters that regulate our thoughts, our emotions, our actions come from our gut. And so the bacteria that live in our gut determine which neurotransmitters are created. If you have a a diet that is largely comprised of processed foods, excess animal products, lack of true whole foods, this affects our gut microbiome, the bacteria that live in our gut, and they're not able to produce the valuable neurotransmitters and other health benefits, immune function, metabolic balance, and so much more. And so, uh, eating the right foods allow us to optimize our gut health. And when we optimize our gut health, we optimize our emotional. Just to give you an idea, how many of these bacteria that live in our gut, right? Imagine, uh, we'll just say the US penny. If anyone has seen the 1 cent coin, the US penny, obviously, if you're in the US, you've seen it. If you're not in the US, it's your standard coin. It's not very thick. It's a very thin little copper coin. So if you take that penny, and 1 penny represents one bacteria that live in your gut, right? So to give you an idea of the number of these things, if you stacked pennies, where 1 penny equals one organism that lives in your gut, you would start making a tower, right, with all these pennies. This tower would be able to reach from the Earth to the moon 154 times. That is how many of these gut microbes live in our gut that serve us. We give them a place to live. They give us vital nutrients and processing. Okay. And so you take care of them, they take care of us, not just your mental health, everything. It is a prerequisite for the human organism to thrive is good food. And unfortunately, our food system is just not geared toward us being able to eat that way. So fundamentally, what does it look like? It means less processed food, less things that come in a package, and more things that are in the produce section, right? Your fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, seeds. If you're going to have animal products, and animals do not have fiber, and I'm going to touch on this point on fiber here in a second, but just make sure it's as organic and clean raised as possible. And so it's vital for us to treat our gut right in order for us to have optimal emotional health. So when I say eat more fiber, fiber is you have soluble and insoluble fibers. We used to think that fiber was just to help you poop, right? And fiber, when I say fiber, I don't mean like a fiber supplement. Metamucil doesn't count. I mean from a real plant. Okay, so your soluble fiber breaks down in water. Your insoluble fiber does not. But what we found out is that the bacteria that live in our gut love to thrive on this fiber, and they produce these short chain fatty acids like butyrate and these other compounds that have a variety of functions in the human body that we're just starting to learn in the last few years. It's fascinating research that's coming out. And so, what we are learning from them, though, is that fiber is so critical. And if you look at the recommended daily allowance for men and women, it varies slightly. It's 28 grams a day for women, 35 for men, and in the US, that's the recommendation. But the reality is that something like 97% of Americans don't even get 10 grams of fiber per day. Fiber is vital, and yet that's just the recommended allowance. If we look at the Hadza tribe of Tanzania, the people that live indigenously, their natural diet consists of about 100 grams of fiber per day. Now, I would not recommend just jumping in and trying to eat 100 grams of fiber. I'm not even there yet. Okay. And I've been doing this for years. We have to build our tolerance up. But even when you look at Paleolithic poop fossils, we can derive from that our ancestors used to eat 100 to 200 grams of fiber per day. This is a vital nutrient that is associated not just with better emotional health, but better health outcomes in general, better, heart health, better outcomes for things like type 2 diabetes and stroke and all these other things. And so eating more fiber fundamentally is what it boils down to. So just eat more whole plants. I'm not and just trying to eliminate the processed sugars, the refined carbohydrates, the refined oils, excess animal products, the processed highly processed animal products, all this stuff, highly processed foods in general, and just eat more whole plants just as they're found in nature, and you will gradually build up your gut health, and your emotional health will follow. Does that make sense? I know that was a lot of science I just threw at you. Whew. All right. We got a couple more coming up. All right, we ready? Who's still with me? Let me know. Drop a comment if you're enjoying this so far. This is like our halftime break. I got two tips and now two more coming up. So I'd like to know if this is still if you're still with us. Let's see. I've tried my best to use this method to wake up without a phone, but nowadays so much is dependent on that device. I can't even think of this 10 or 15 years ago. Yeah, it's true. I mean, the dependence that we have on our phones is remarkable. But here's the thing. You and I remember what it was like 10 to 15 years ago and before. We still survived, right? Like all of us still survived. Humanity survived without cell phones. We can survive without looking at that phone first thing in the morning. I promise you. It's scary. It's difficult. And look, I'm a business owner. I have clients who have access to me, who can message me, any time of day. But I do tell them, like, I practice what I preach. I'm going to respond to you when I can. Now, sometimes those things are more important than others. And yeah, we make our exceptions. Maybe sometimes we have to, let's say fly a red eye flight overnight and things like that. You're going to have those disruptions. That's okay. This is just about doing the best we can on a day in and day out basis. Kurt, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So let's continue on. All right, here we go. Do one thing each day that makes you feel alive. One thing, just one thing. All right, that's all I'm asking of you. Just do one thing each day that makes you feel alive. So last year, I was introduced to a gentleman who wanted to work with me, and he was experiencing he experienced a really severe panic attack for the first time in his life. I had dealt with anxiety over the years, but this was at another level, and that scared him to the point of, again, we change when it hurts enough. And so that was his situation there. And so one of the first things I did with him was I said, okay, let's start to create a little bit more sense of normalcy in your life. The things that make you feel the most like you, things that make you feel the most alive. So what are some of the things that you truly enjoy doing? And he said, without hesitation, travel was one of them. But the other one he said was movies. I love going to the theater. He said, I'm one of those people, I have to go there like half an hour early, go get my popcorn, right? Get my napkins, everything else. And I have to go sit in my seat and get all hyped up for the movie. And then I cannot miss any of the trailers. I love watching the trailers. Even if I've seen them before, I just love that part of the movie going experience. And then just enjoy that, like during that time in the theater, nothing else matters. You're just right there enjoying this with all your senses. And the passion that he shared that with was so evident. Like, he's not just somebody that, oh yeah, I enjoy going to the movies. He loves going to the movies, right? So I said, cool. What was the last movie you watched? And granted, so this was last September. He mentioned something that he had watched in the previous summer or that summer. And I said, okay, cool. Awesome. Even though it was 2-3 months prior. I said, that's great. What was the last time you watched a movie prior to that? He goes, you know what? I think it was before COVID. Think about that. This is an activity that this gentleman enjoys, that makes him feel alive. He doesn't have to justify his passion to anybody, right? It's just a big part of who he is. And he had seen one movie in like 3+ years. And if we really stop and look at it, we all do that, right? It's so easy to get busy with family, with work, with other challenges that come up in life that we forget to do some of the simple things that make us feel alive. You know what it is for me? Singing. And when I look at the times in my life that I was having a downward trajectory, music and singing was not part of my life. Whether it's singing in the shower, singing in the car, I don't have to sing for anyone. I just sing, right? I enjoy it. It doesn't have to be karaoke night. It's what is one of those things that makes you feel alive? I have another client that, we're just starting out and we went through this exercise, and a big part for him is coaching, coaching high school athletes. And it was a giant part of his life before and hasn't been for the last several years. And recently he delved back into it, dipped his toe back into coaching again. And he just had, a short 2-week training season. And so he comes in recently, and I can see he goes from, just really in his head and struggling with his emotions to the moment like he was walking in and smiling. Now, is he cured, so to speak? I mean, first of all, look, none of us are broken. There's no cure. Okay. It's just about being able to readapt to a better state of being. It's a shift in the way we think. So, but he came in, he's so excited because he's doing something that makes him feel alive. So, what is something that makes you feel alive? Let me know in the chat. I already told you, for me, it's singing. Singing is a key, helps me feel amazing. So, what is it for you? Music is my oxygen on any day, says Kurt. I love it. Yeah, music is powerful, so powerful. That's a great avenue. For some people, it's being outside. Being able to go enjoy the sun. Actually, here's a little tip. All of us were designed to be outside. I'm not one of those people that I'm not really an outdoorsy person, but I do enjoy being outside. Now, right now in Arizona, it's hot. We got a pool. So there's a lake nearby. We have a lot of mosquitoes, right? And I hate mosquitoes. They love me. It's a problem, but I gotta still be outside. Like, you can't avoid being outside. It doesn't matter if it's hot, anything. So enjoy the presence of what we were designed for, which was thriving out there. So let me know in the chat here, what are some of the things that make you feel alive, that you could do it every day, just for a few minutes? Just do it for you, for nobody else, just for you. It's those things that can make the difference between having a completely derailed day to, you know what? There was one thing about today that I can lean on, that I can count on. So do that for yourself every day. All right. And my last one for you. What was one thing today that you did today that made you proud? What is one thing that you did today that made you proud? Okay. So this is something that, if you don't answer any question to yourself at the end of the day, answer this one just for yourself. You can journal it if you want, write it down. You can just think about it as you lay in bed, as you're about to fall asleep. What's one thing you did today that made you proud? Maybe it was a great day. You went forth and you did something really cool. Like, one thing for me, I'll tell you today, is this talk right here. Getting to talk to you is something I really enjoy doing. I love being able to share, because it's personal. I told you a little bit about my journey. Like, I wasn't always doing this. I wasn't always doing this emotional health work. I wasn't always a doctor, and this is my second career. It's something that I was called to because it's meaningful to me. And so, one thing today that made me proud, this is absolutely going to be on that list, right? If you do multiple things, then even better. But the reason I say one is this, right? There's some days that you're going to wake up, it's just not going to be a great day. There's going to be challenges. It's just life. It's not going to be perfect ever. But how we react to it is our choice. Pain is going to happen in life. Your suffering is optional. You don't have to suffer. Pain is our greatest teacher, so never let your pain go to waste. What can you learn from this situation? What is this day teaching you? What are your symptoms teaching you? What are they alerting you to? What is this? How could this be happening for you, not to you? There are going to be days that are tough. It's just life. But if on a tough day, let's say one of the things that you've been committing yourself to is going to the gym more regularly, and maybe you're having one of those tough days and you're like, I really don't want to go, or I don't want to take a walk around the neighborhood. But if you just get up and you go and you just do the best you can, it doesn't have to be pretty. You're not doing it for anyone else. You're doing it for you. Nobody's watching. Nobody cares, right? This is for you. This is for you. And if you can look at yourself in the mirror at night and say, okay, you know what? Today went off the rails. It was a rough day. But despite that, I went for a walk tonight. Despite that, I went to the gym. Despite that, I was so tempted to go to the store and just buy a bunch of ice cream. But then I remembered Dr. K saying less processed food, more fiber. And you know what? I made a salad instead and it was awesome. Or I had a green juice instead and it was awesome. And I am proud of that. Do one thing every day that makes you proud. You'd be surprised how much that can positively affect your mental health when you do that day in and day out. Okay. So, to make that a little bit easier, you can download my daily planner, the Dr. K Journal, and it's completely free to you. And actually, I guess this QR code is hidden behind my here. If somebody can type this in the chat, okay, if somebody can type this in the chat, drkjournal.com, drkjournal.com. Okay. Actually, let me see if I can move this. Oops. Maybe not. Yep. All right. I guess I can't really I can't move my name off of the screen here for you to be able to scan that QR code. But if you can type in the chat for me, drkjournal.com, and we'll also put this in the show notes so that you can download it there. It's completely free. You'll get on my email list that way. I don't send out a ton of emails. I want each one of them to be rare and useful. So, but I think this is something that can really help you if you go to drkjournal.com. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mind Journal, for posting that for me. So here, what you're going to have is, your morning, like your meditation and or prayer. What came up for you? What realizations, aha moments did you have? Gratitude. Today, I'm grateful for. Be very specific. When you are living in a space of focusing on what you do have in your life, it's much easier to celebrate your wins and feel better than when you're focused on the things that you don't have and that you're struggling with. When you live in the gratitude of what you do have and what you are going through and what you can count on, that is the space from which you can solve the problems of the things that you don't have. Okay. Celebrate this. So I completed this one main task today. This is writing in the past tense you're doing this in the morning, by the way. You're doing this in the morning and you're saying as if you have completed it already. You're training your mind to commit to doing this, right? Rate how you feel in the following areas: your human needs, stability, excitement, human connection, purpose, growth, your 5 pillars of emotional health. How are you feeling? Right. And now this is the Fibonacci sequence. It's not a scale of 1 to 10. I'll explain that at another time, or you can DM me and I can go ahead and tell you that. I am proud because I can improve because these are things that you can do at the end of the day to reflect, refocus. If my day went off course, these are some of the things that I've done. Your goals. You can also track your food, your exercise, your water intake, all of those things. All of the 5 pillars to improve your emotional health. drkjournal.com. All right. Thanks, everybody that posted that for me. And also, actually, here, why don't we do some Q&A first, and then I can show you where you can follow me and everything else. Does that sound good? So what questions do you have? We got a little bit of time. I want to make sure that I answer any questions that you might have. For those of you that are tuned in live, if you're watching the replay, you can always hit me up on Instagram, send me a DM, and be happy to answer your questions there, make a real video for you, and go from there. Okay, in the modern age, how come people are still talking about mental health? We need mental health awareness more than ever. Yeah, Kylie, I agree. I mean, I'm glad that we have a month for it now. And I think we are making a huge shift because, even where I was in my career 10 years ago compared to now, just the willingness to discuss it is light years ahead of where it used to be. Doesn't mean that we don't have a long way to go still. But I think the other thing to remember, though, is we have to also approach it from a standpoint of like, oh, it's not, oh, I have this problem and therefore my identity is wrapped around this problem. Anxiety, things like that are, or feeling like you're not good enough, imposter syndrome, all of these things are symptoms that allow us to say, how can I get better? Make sure that we use it as a tool to improve. And I would say this, right? We can sit there and talk about why it's not as well known as it should be, or we can be the change that we want to see in the world. Nobody will be more motivated, driven to change by what we say. They're not going to be influenced by what we say. They're going to be influenced by who we show up as, what we do. When somebody sees you heal and improve and grow, and that part of them that says, I want some of that, that's where we create the change. So, we can talk about it, and it's important to talk about it, but the next step is really important, is to take it to the next level and be an example of what shining mental and emotional health looks like, so that others realize it's possible. I have a close friend who he goes to schools and he talks about mental health. And he was telling me he's at the school, and he has this station up, at basically they were having a kind of a fair type of thing. And so he had his booth up and he was talking about his resources, and this kid walks up to him. He says he's probably like 16 years old or so. And he goes up to him and he goes, Hey, John, do you like your life? And my friend he's a retired police officer. He's an awesome dude. And he just looks at the kid and goes, yeah, I do love my life. I've had a hard life. Things have not been easy, but I love my life. And the kid goes, oh, and he walks away. That was it. And my friend was really moved by it. I was moved just listening to it, because that kid did not know that you could feel good. He didn't know it was possible. I'm living proof that it's possible, because I didn't used to. I used to live in the critical voice of my head, that negative voice that would constantly beat myself up. It doesn't matter how good things are around you. If you're fighting your inner self, you're never going to feel great. But you don't always have to feel that way. But you have to believe it's possible. And to believe it's possible, think about my story. I saw the change in my sister, and that's why I wanted to change. So we're talking about it this month, but the best thing we can do is show other people what being emotionally healthy looks like, and support them through that journey. So thank you, Kylie. I appreciate that comment. Priya says, is it possible to deal with depression without medication? Yeah, so this one is definitely a case-by-case basis, right? But what I will say in in working with people, I can't give you individualized medical advice here on this forum, but what I will say is that certainly in my own journey, overcoming depression did not require medication. Overcoming, and it was severe depression a couple times in my life. And so, but where it really shifted was implementing these 5 pillars of emotional health. Some of the tips that I mentioned today, right? I do it every day. Like, doing these healthy habits are the prerequisite to stay emotionally healthy. And one thing that, having been through it myself, I think a lot of people view depression, if they have never really gone through it, as it's like extreme sadness, right? It's like, no, not at all. It's not extreme sadness. I know exactly what it feels like, because it's the sense of disconnect between the life you are living and who you truly are. They're at odds with each other. And so when you don't feel a sense of purpose, you don't feel a sense of growth, you don't feel a sense of any of these things, you don't envision yourself being around in 2 weeks, you can't see the future. And people telling you to cheer up, or oh, it could be worse. There are a lot of people that go through worse. Like, it doesn't help when you're in that state, right? But fundamentally, when you can implement the healthy habits, the food, the getting outside, the sleep, things like that, it's not that these are the cure for depression. It's that these are underlying determinants for us to be healthy. It's what we were designed for. We were designed to be out in nature. We were designed to be out in nature and survive the elements out there. All of our neurological wiring is designed to keep us safe. It's not designed to help us thrive. and it's definitely not designed for this crazy modern world. Now, am I saying that we should all go out and live in the forest? I'm the last person that's going to do that. I don't even like camping. Okay. But what we can do is put more plants in our indoor spaces. We can get more natural sunlight. We can eat better. All of these things are are fundamental elements, the foundation for us to be emotionally healthy. And then when we can also do the work through the counseling, the therapy, et cetera, to understand how did I get this way, right? What were the situations in my life growing up where I adapted to have this way of thinking? And that has served me in my life. That has served me in getting to this point. But that armor is also hurting me in other ways. And so it's being able to process and change some of those things. Hope that was helpful. Okay, what else do we have here? Sometimes it feels like shutting down terribly. Oh, here we go. Sometimes it feels like shutting down terribly when really needs help, even though there are resources, people, and help. Lose trust all of a sudden. What do we switch the mindsets in those moments? Yeah, what's interesting is that when we, and I get this, when we need help, if I hope I'm understanding the question correctly, when we need help the most is probably when we reach out the least sometimes. And I'm thinking back to depression as well. And one of the reasons for me was, and if you think about it from the concept of, okay, if we were designed to be out in nature, how could this actually help us? And so in a state of depression, we tend to withdraw. So it's not in our nature to go out and get help, but we do that when it hurts enough. So one thing to understand, everything is we're designed to preserve energy, because energy in nature is scarce. You can't just go to the grocery store and buy a bunch of food. These days, you don't even have to do that. Just go to Uber Eats or whatever, and food shows up at your door. Like it takes so little energy to get energy. And so this is really not what we're designed for. We're designed for a world where it's hard to get energy. So we're designed to preserve energy. Think about your heart that has been beating since before you were born, right? Your all that time, and your lungs and your diaphragm that has been moving back and forth throughout your life, your digestive organs that churn all the food, your skeletal muscles that move your body, all this energy that is taken all throughout the body. And yet the one organ that takes more energy than any other organ is your brain. 20% of your body's energy usage is your brain, just to survive, just the baseline, just to be able to send signals to your heart, your pacemaker, to keep pumping, keep your heart pumping, everything else, right? Just the basic survival. So anytime that we want to make a significant change, your body's basically calculating, do I want to commit 30 calories to this? Do I want to commit 100 calories to this? Oh, completely shift my identity? Oh man, that's going to take like 5,000 calories. No, we're not doing that, right? Until the pain of staying where we are exceeds the fear of moving forward. And so that's when we reach out for help. But I will say this, right? Even if you're not ready to reach out for help with a professional, you can still do some of the healthy habits that help you move in the right direction. And the one thing I will say is that think about some of the struggles that you might have been through in the past. And has there ever been a time that you've had a blessing in disguise? Has there ever been a time when you had a blessing in disguise where it's like, you know what, that was a terrible time, but if that didn't happen, I wouldn't. Look, I went through hell myself, and a couple rock bottoms in my life, but looking back, I wouldn't change any of that. It was horrible during that time. I couldn't understand why it was happening, but I understand now, because I get to do work that means something to me. I get to be here talking to you. It's an amazing feeling. And so it gives meaning to all the past. So what if right now you were in a place where it doesn't make sense now, but what if it will make sense in the future? If this was a stepping stone to become the best version of you, then maybe all you need to do is put one foot in front of the other and just get a little bit better today, and a little bit better the next day, a little bit better the next day. And then when you're ready, you can take it up a notch. Hope that was helpful. All right, we got time for one more here. Kurt says, I always box myself up with my emotions because I don't communicate properly. It's causing me mental health problems, increasing tension in our relationship, and I'm unable to communicate, thinking that it might cause her pain. Is there an easier way, communication. So this is a great question. One of the challenges that we have with relationships, romantic relationships specifically, is that we serve so many different roles to one another, right? There's the practical day-to-day aspect of, if my car broke down, I'm going to call my wife, right? If I need to get picked up from somewhere, if, obviously there's intimacy needs, there's, friendship, like being able to talk to somebody. But at the same time, in order for those things to thrive, we have to be an emotionally healthy person ourselves, at least to a certain degree. And one of the areas that, like, we feel like we should be able to talk to our partner about a lot of things, but maybe we're not ready for that just yet. Like, we want to be, and we will be, but we have to process some of our own stuff first. And that's where working with a professional is so useful. And trust me, I was in a place for so many years where I would feel ashamed to go talk to somebody, and probably didn't help that my first experience with a counselor wasn't good. And it really, I expanded that to the whole profession, but it was really unfair at the time. I was at my college, and we had a resource center, and unfortunately, the therapists there were talking to the us kids about depression all the time, and it was day in and day out about the same challenge can be really challenging. And so I didn't feel like this person empathized with me or understood where I was coming from. And so I just said, okay, this is not going to be helpful. But it wasn't the case, because later on in life I did need that, and it was so powerful and so helpful. And so um, I would suggest, if each of you is able to find your own mental health professional in your area, so that you can process through things, help you understand things, that will be very powerful. And if you're not ready for that yet, I do actually have some resources, and I have a membership group as well, which I'll talk about here in a second, that you can join that. We do group trainings like this on a regular basis. Plus, I have some courses that I'll talk about here in a second as well. Um, so yes, I'm here for you. Other people are here for you. It's definitely possible, because I have seen this, Kurt. I have seen your exact situation where it's really like we're so used to bottling it up, because that's what we needed to do growing up, right? We couldn't express it. And that might have made you a really tough person, somebody that can really endure all sorts of hell, right? But it's like having a toolbox. The hammer is not the only tool, right? Sometimes you need a screwdriver. And so being able to build our emotional health toolbox so that we can use different things at different times is incredibly powerful. So hope that was helpful. I know we got to wrap up here, so I just want to share this with you. I do post some regular videos here. You'll get some more emotional health videos on my social accounts, on Instagram and YouTube. So please feel free to follow me there. And also, if you want to go to my website, you can learn more about how I can help you. I work with, fundamentally, it breaks down to I do speaking engagements. So if you want me to come to your company and talk to you there, or your organization, we can have that conversation. If you are looking for one-on-one emotional health mentorship, and that's a it's a 1-year program that is very intense, and limited spots available for that. I do also work with companies. So if you are a business owner, or you have a business owner, or you work for a business where the owner really cares about the well-being of your team, and you really want to be able to offer this to everybody in your group, I'm able to help you with that too. So you can learn all about that there. But here's what I was talking about. You'll find this on my website too. This is just a short link to get there. But Insiders Club, you basically get access to all these courses. So Good Mood Plant Food, Supporting Self. So this is the nutrition class, Good Mood Plant Food. Supporting Self is about, implementing these 5 pillars of emotional health, healthy habits, especially during the holiday season. That could be a time that it really, people really struggle with it. And self-criticism. This is a flagship course for silencing the negative voice in your head. So that is there in the library as well. Loving Me, Loving You. This is about relationships, Kurt. So the way that I broke this course down, it's one that my wife and I co-teach. But the first part is the loving me part, right? How do we fall in love with ourselves, understand our own mind, understand our love languages, understand our stories and our triggers, things like that. And I guess you can't see this behind my name, but on the screen there, it says Crush Imposter Syndrome is another course I have, and Conquer Comparison. how to stop comparing yourself to other people. So all that stuff is available. And we also have this Growth Seekers Insiders Club community. And Growth Seekers, it's think about it, it's almost like a private Facebook group that's not on Facebook, because I don't like being on social media any more than I have to. But if you can connect with other people that are like people in this room right now that are positive and striving to improve ourselves at all times, it's a great place to be. So I do regular talks once a month like this. And then we also have open office hours so that you can get some direct coaching there as well. So that's my information there. Take a picture of that on your phone. We'll also put it in the show notes here below this video, and we'll go from there. Okay. All right. So thanks, everybody. It has been a blast getting to talk to you today. I hope we can connect here again. It was so good to see all of you, Kurt, Priya, Bushra, everybody else. It was an honor getting to speak to you today. Hope these tips have been helpful. And just remember one thing: you are not broken. You are not broken. This moment is an opportunity for you to change the trajectory of the rest of your life. What if life is not happening to you? What if life is happening for you? We get trapped down this idea that we're stuck, we're broken, and it's just not true. It's just steps to get to the person that we want to be. And if this moment and if this struggle is what it took for you to become the best version of yourself, live a happy, fulfilling, growth-seeking life, a fulfilling life, then maybe it was worth it in the end. Stop chasing joy. Begin living in wonder. I believe in your greatness.